predominantly Hispanic. And that's one of the problems that the court found. It said, why did you go to Guadalupe? Why did you go to certain neighborhoods in Mesa? An outlier may have been Fountain Hill. So maybe if you go to a place like Guadalupe and you stop not the Indians and Hispanics, it's true. But the court was looking at, I think the plaintiffs were looking at, why are you going there? And why are you going to other areas of the mountains? They work there. I'm just saying what the court found.
Okay. There was a question from this side of the room. Okay, Chris.
I have a comment and then a couple of quick questions. First of all, I'd like to sincerely thank everyone who's here tonight who's involved in the monitoring. Certainly the ACLU for your participation and everyone who's involved in oversight. The comment I would like to make is that there is a climate of fear in Fountain Hills around Sheriff Arpaio and his operations. And the example I can give you is that several times I've had occasion to write to the Fountain Hills Times about my concern over Sheriff Arpaio and racial profiling. I have been told by multiple people in this town, don't ever sign your name to anything criticizing Sheriff Arpaio. He will get your license number, he will see that you stopped.
Please,
sorry.
You will have a right to express your opinion.
Yes. So, for those of us who are law-abiding and have lived here for a very long time, I'd like to suggest that one of the reasons more complaints aren't heard is that people are afraid to complain. The two questions I have are, I was told tonight, I'm just curious about this, that there was an officer taking down the license plate numbers outside. Is that true?
No.
That's not true?
No.
No one was taking down the license plate numbers. Okay. Secondly, if citizens are invited to complain about specific incidents to the Maricopa office, how can they be assured that their anonymity will be protected? And how can they be assured that they won't be retaliated against?
Well, let me say one thing, and I try to translate it as shortly as I can. Again, when somebody gives a 20-minute speech, it's impossible for me to be able to translate anything near or what the message you're trying to convey. But, you know, Ms. Ramirez is sitting next to you. You know, you can file a complaint through the monitor's office. We will file a complaint with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office Department. We will make sure that we will monitor that complaint. If there's any retaliation, then we'll go to the judge and we'll tell the court there's retaliation against the person that filed a complaint. Should that happen, I'm not saying that that's going to happen. But if you have any faith on filing a complaint with the gentleman with Internal Affairs for Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, you can file it with us. We'll make sure that it gets investigated. We'll keep you apprised of where it's at. We'll track it, during 90 days, 60 days, 120 days, etc., when the complaint has been filed. La señorita, la pregunta que ella dijo al principio, ella probablemente vive aquí en el vecindario de Fountain Hills. Dice que muchas personas que viven aquí le tienen miedo a la oficina del alguacil, que le han dicho a ella que ella nunca escriba su nombre en ninguna queja contra el sheriff porque van a coger acciones contra ella. Ella estuvo explicando que hay personas que no quieren hacer quejas contra el departamento porque tienen miedo a esas quejas. Dijo que la oficina del monitor, nuestra oficina, la señorita Ramírez, tiene los formularios de nosotros, puede darnos las quejas a nosotros, tiene los números de nosotros. Nosotros nos aseguramos que esa queja sea investigada, nos aseguramos que nada le pase a usted porque ha hecho esa queja.
We have a question.
We have a question. We see.
Good evening. I'm here. I've heard the steps that are being taken to comply with the order. However, I'm here to report violations. Specifically, I went onto the website of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office because I was looking for information for someone that called that was looking for their loved one. And what I came across is a continuation of the attitude that this sheriff's office has. Specifically, there's a picture, and I've seen more than one picture on the website stating, "Help Sheriff Arpaio fight illegal immigration." So that's part of their recruitment effort that's being made by the Sheriff's Department. And what does that mean? Illegal immigration to me is racial profiling. So it still continues to take place. People are still being stopped. And so, as part of that recruitment effort, that should be taken off the website. That's still a continuation of the attitude, including statements on the website that said the enforcement of the 287G agreement and so forth. To me, there's violations that are occurring, as has been stated, inside the jails of people that are speaking Spanish, being treated differently. So there's continuation of racial profiling.
Okay, and I would ask everyone, there are some emotionally charged issues that are in this room. And in the name of constructive dialogue, let's be respectful of everyone, please. Ma'am, I can't respond to that specifically, but one of the reasons we have the presence of people here from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office is for them to listen, okay? And we in our after meeting deliberations with Chief Sheridan and others, I'm sure they've taken note of what you said, and I appreciate your having said that. Now I promise someone from this side of the room, it was you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Lena Bell.
Let's get you a microphone. You feel comfortable with a microphone?
No, I don't need a microphone.
They can't hear you. They can't hear you.
My name is Lena Belliner, and I am a legal immigrant from Italy. And I've been a resident of Fountain Hills for nearly 14 years. And I've worked very hard. I love this community, and I love the Sheriff's Office, and I appreciate everything that office does. And I will tell you that I was an employee of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office for 6 years. And I want to tell you, ma'am, that I worked at the 4th Avenue Jail as a paralegal in the Inmate Legal Services Department of all places. And I want to tell that other gentleman too, that one of my jobs was to interact with inmates. I interacted with the inmates. I'm a paralegal. And one of the roles that I had was to make sure and to assure that every inmate, regardless of what their charges were, was treated fairly and equitably. Our Inmate Legal Services Department represented 9 different countries. Our potlucks were the best because everyone brought food from their own native land. The Hispanic community was represented by 3 individuals out of the staff of 14 and 1 supervisor. So the Hispanic community was very well represented in the Inmate Legal Services Department. And I don't know if many of you know, but our mayor in this town is Hispanic. I have one other comment here. Sir, there's actually a couple comments. You are asking your deputies to comply, and asking the deputies of Maricopa County Sheriff's Office to comply in a constitutional manner. But why are you not requiring illegal aliens to comply within the Constitution of the United States of America? I'd like to know that. The other, as a legitimate taxpayer for many years of my life, hardworking life, I want to know what is your salary and that of the monitor's office, who pays for that, and how much has this lawsuit cost the taxpayers of this county?
I'll respond to that. It's public record. The monitoring costs about $1.6 million a year. And that's very much on the public record. In terms of what the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office has spent regarding implementation and legal fees and appellate fees, I'm not in the best position to answer that question. You asked what the implementation is cost.
How much?
The monitoring contract is around $1.6 million a year.
And that's all your salary?
That's right, that's right.
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
What
Yes,
other
ma'am.
expenses are in there?
Oh, I mean, our travel expenses.
And
But that's all public.
And it's all public record?
Absolutely.
But it all comes out of my hard-earned money?
Yes, it does, ma'am. Yes, it does. Now, in terms of the second part of your question regarding, you asked not just in terms of the monitoring, but in terms of the implementation, which I would assume also would have to include the legal fees that Maricopa County citizens pay. Chief Sheridan, do you have a response from Tom? And I don't mean, I want to put you on the spot, the legal fees, but I mean, in
Yeah, I'm
terms of
Tom County
implementation.
employee. Yeah, I would say since 2007, I think the legal fees have been approximately $800,000 to represent the sheriff, and about $4.3 million to represent the plaintiff.
Right. And what about Chief Sheridan in terms of I know that there have been figures attributable to implementation in terms of equipment and things of that sort, cameras and.
Well, so far this year, like I said earlier, we've spent about $7.1 million. The fiscal year goes to June 30th, so we're anticipating, another $2 million, probably $12 million this year.
You didn't, I don't think you answered the question about, you asked the question about the deputies being forced to act in a constitutional manner, but the other residents aren't.
Regarding what you're saying regarding people, okay, I have no standing on that particular matter. You're asking me about Latinos who live or pass through Maricopa County and what their constitutional responsibilities are. I have no answer to that
Maybe Ms.
question.
Swan might have
Okay.
an answer to my question.
Okay. You're basically asking if a federal court has jurisdiction over individual conducts of people by virtue of the fact that they're here. I just don't know an artful way of answering that question. Now, we have absolutely, okay?
Ma'am?
We have.
What's your question? Can you restate it for me?
Yes, ma'am. The monitor said that the deputies are asked to comply in a constitutional way. That's what the order states, correct? But why are we not requiring illegal aliens to comply in a constitutional manner?
To answer your question, this lawsuit was brought because the MCSO was violating the constitutional rights of Latinos, citizens and not citizens. Our lawsuit is not about that. Someone else can bring that lawsuit if they want to bring that
I think
lawsuit.
we have an area of agreement here. It's important. The Bill of Rights and the courts are going to protect everyone who's present here in the country, whether they're a U.S. citizen, legal aliens, or unlawfully present. Everyone has constitutional rights. And the federal court has asked this monitor to ensure that the state actors, the state, the police, the guys with the badges, in this instance the deputies, protect the rights and respect the rights of individuals. An allegation that somebody out there doesn't work for the government, maybe violating the state constitution, doesn't really make sense, because the Bill of Rights is there to protect all people against state actors. So police are state actors, individuals, whether they're here lawfully or unlawfully, are not state actors. And therefore the court and this monitor would not be empowered to investigate how to deal with any of their conduct.
It would generally be a good time to quit when the attorneys agree on that. But we'll take a few more questions, and ma'am, I know I know, even though you said something at the beginning, I know you've been waiting to say something now. Okay? Okay.
What, I'm sorry.
Hang on.
You? Yeah, me. Okay.
The other one
Mayor Linda Kavanaugh, first Hispanic mayor of the town of Fountain Hills, but not first on the council. My name is Fernandez. My Sheriff Arpaio supported me wholeheartedly in both my elections. I have two concerns as the mayor of this town. First is, how safe are we going to be in the town of Fountain Hills after this is all over? How overly cautious is this going to make our deputies? Many years ago, we had a very small police force, our marshals, and they did the best they could. But unfortunately, we needed more services, and we needed much more protection because the valley became rampant with drugs and other more serious crimes, and it started to infiltrate into Fountain Hills. So we hired the Sheriff's Department, and since we've done that, crime's gone down. I, as a female, can walk the streets of Fountain Hills at 3 o'clock in the morning. My concern is, how overly cautious and nervous is a deputy going to be that if he sees something that his instinct, and my husband was a detective sergeant in New York, retired for 20 years, and instinct is a big part of a policeman's job. So how is he going to be so concerned that someone is going to bring charges against him, that he's not going to be proactive? I'm concerned about that. I mean, I understand that you want to make sure that everything is going constitutionally and that that you are ensuring everyone's rights. But on the other hand, you know, there are the rights of the innocent people to be protected, and that's my first.
Mayor, the only reason I need the Chief Martinez to be able to capture that so people understand.
You're pretty good at it.
Right.
You can sum it up.
Let me answer your question, then I'll sum it up. 99.99% of things that are in disorder are best police practices. It's not something they have to go to the moon to make an arrest. It's not something that they can't make arrests. You can't have good policing. In fact, it makes your policing good policing. Not just for the Latino community, for all the communities. It doesn't matter where you're from, language that you spoke when you were born, etc. So it's all good police practices. Hearing it from Deputy Chief Sheridan, most of the deputies welcome the changes. More supervision is good. More supervision equals good policing. That the policeman's out there doing what your taxes are paid for, not sleeping under a tree. Not saying that they're doing that now, but it's what supervision does. You make sure that you're getting your dollars worth for that policeman that's out there. So it's all good policing practices. Video recorders that embody. In most instances, you know, and I know there's some privacy issues, most video recordings clear the police officer when they do something. Studies have shown that it shows that the allegation wasn't so. It's going to show proof that what the officer said he was doing was right. If he's not doing the right thing, you don't want him in your police department. So that answers the question. La pregunta que ella estaba haciendo, y perdone que no he traducido hace rato, porque cuando hablamos mucho tiempo es difícil repetir ese mensaje, es que el miedo de ella como la alcaldesa de esta ciudad es que si los policías, por culpa de esta orden, van a darle menos servicio porque van a tener miedo de ser policía. La respuesta de nosotros como monitores, con cientos de años de experiencia que tenemos aquí siendo monitores, es que lo que dice esta orden son las mejores prácticas policíacas de los Estados Unidos. No le están requiriendo que hagan algo bien más diferente que los departamentos de los otros estados están haciendo. Son políticas que protegen al policía, y hasta el jefe Sheridan nos ha dicho a nosotros que los policías en la calle, que son los importantes para ustedes, son los que ustedes tienen el roce con todo diariamente, ellos quieren estos cambios. Más supervisión es importante para ustedes. Hay un sargento que está vigilando lo que está haciendo ese policía y se está asegurando que los impuestos que ustedes pagan, los taxes que ustedes pagan, que ese policía le está dando la labor que ustedes están pagando.
Okay, well, that sort of answers my question. I still feel that police are human, and someone constantly looking over their shoulder is going to make them a little bit cautious. Now, my second point, if you don't mind, are the cameras. Many people today have a real anti-camera privacy issue, and whether you're stopped and you haven't done anything wrong, you're still being recorded that you were somewhere, somehow, and maybe you weren't at work, maybe you weren't where you were supposed to be. You're being recorded, and that's on the record, and that could be a permanent record. Now, there's a lot of people that don't want to be recorded. A lot of people don't want people wearing Google glasses, and it's kind of the same thing. It's a privacy issue, and there's too much of our privacy being invaded. So I am very concerned about someone recording everything that I say and I do if I should get stopped for a taillight being out or something like that. And I really think you have to look carefully at the issue and have some very strict guidelines to protect the person who wants their privacy protected. And thank you.
Good comment, Mayor. What I would say, if I could just generalize this and not just make it relevant to Maricopa County, I would venture to guess that within the next 10 years, and there are 17,500 police departments in the United States, and I would venture to guess within the next 10 years, every police officer will be wearing a camera. It's been done in highway patrols for years, state police, a variety of municipal agencies, and I think as has been stated, there could be both either exculpatory or inculpatory. But as Ms. Wong said in her comments, and I can't speak for her, I'm only going to echo what she said, that there was and is a concern regarding privacy issues, and clearly on the table of issues that have to be discussed and that should be discussed as a community, that clearly is part of it. To the extent that citizens can impact public policy, you know, what the retention is of that material, what it's used for, if it's discoverable, how it's used in trials. There are a variety of histories already that exist. We've seen cameras for around 10 years. It's a good point. I know, I was watching the national news this morning, Los Angeles ordered 7,500 cameras, and this is the new age, and we're going to probably see this and then some. Okay, ma'am, I promised you, and I want to keep that promise.
Thank you, sir. If I heard you correctly, you had said only 14 of the 87 have been implemented. That's what we're here to do, not the implementation tonight. So my question to you, based on the amount of policy that needs to be written and the things that need to be implemented before such an item can be ticked off the checklist, lots of months of planning and what have you. I'm usually lots of planning and what have you. It seems to me that since 2013 of October, 14 of those policies have been implemented. Am I correct?
Paragraphs.
Paragraphs. Okay, out of the 87. So they're in compliance with a pretty small amount and about a year's worth of time. Is that correct?
The answer is yes. I'm going to put an asterisk next to it because I want to see what your next comments are.
Okay, so my point is, how much time does the court anticipate for all of this to take, and what's the total dollar figure? Because you're talking about man hours, policy meetings, things like purchasing of these cameras. How much is that going to cost? The storage, my husband works in IT, so when you have that much film, you have to have backups and infrastructure in place. The storage of that, the firewalls behind that, like the mayor was saying, the privacy concerns. Because I have some Fourth Amendment privacy concerns as well about that. So what is the recommended procedure for keeping of said films? Has that all been hammered out yet? And how much manpower hours is that going to cost us beyond the litigation fees and all of that? It sounds to me like we're millions and millions and millions of dollars down the road here.
The answer is that it's very difficult for me to give you an answer, and I'm not trying to evade it because I'll certainly cede the floor to someone from Maricopa County who's in a better position to respond to it. But I would say this, that regarding the 14 of 87, I said that I intentionally did not say only 14 of 87 because I know from experience that at the beginning to get these processes going, it is very, very heavy lifting. Now, on a positive note, and I must be very, very fair to the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, that while they are writing these policies, and while they are creating this training in terms of curriculum, and we have made some major accomplishments in training, they have. And it has been with cooperation with counsel from both sides that has been done. But while these policies are being created, there is a mindfulness on the part of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office as to what these new procedures are, what these new prohibitions are. So even though it has not yet been formalized into a policy that we have approved, I am confident that there is a mindfulness on the part of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, on the part of Mr. Liddy, Ms. Frati, and her office, Ms. Wine, all of the council as well, because we meet on a sustained and regularized basis to assure that as we're creating something, that the organization is not moving backwards, it's moving forward. And I believe that Sheridan and others are on the record that if you set aside the litigation and some of the strong emotions that went with the litigation, the requirements of this order, quite frankly, have given the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office some tools that they perhaps would not have had, okay? Perhaps would not have been funded for. And I think all of these tools not only enhance processes of accountability, but I think it will make them a much more efficient agency in terms of their crime-fighting mandate. So, as I like to say, Rome wasn't built in a day and won't be rebuilt, in a day. But I think that they need to be given credit for seizing this opportunity and jumping into this. And of course, our job is to make sure that the court's order is in fact implemented, and this is why we have an adversarial process, and you've gotten to see a little bit of a peek of what it's like. But I think that's what makes organizations change. That's what makes people move, and these are positive things. So,
is there an anticipatory timeframe on how long this implementation will
Well,
take, and when we can expect to see something about our storage of said tapes and how that's going to go, how that's going to be protected, and what our civil
well,
regarding that?
I would, without belaboring at one point, just without engaging counsel in I would imagine, Mr. Liddy, that retention of videos have much to do with the state archival laws and things of that sort. But I'll allow.
If I may, I think you're asking a very important question.
Yeah.
We're in uncharted territory.
It's a simple question. Well, it's not completely uncharted, as Chief Marshall could say. There are other jurisdictions that have done this, but the questions you're asking are very important questions. The storage capacity of all these cameras takes a lot of equipment.
A lot of bandwidth.
And a lot of bandwidth, exactly. And it costs a lot of money.
Correct.
And we're in the process of working with plaintiff's counsel to come up with, and our staff, to come up with policies of how to acquire all this data, store this data, make sure that there's access to it so that the supervisors can look at it to audit and make sure that the deputies are doing what they're doing, and make sure that it's as secure as it can be. But you're asking great questions. We don't have the answer right now. We're in the process of getting answers, and I think we've made some good headway. And there's no disagreement among the parties on the questions that you're asking about. But it's going to be many months. It won't be until 2016.
Digitizing it, highly expensive as a result of that.
It takes a lot of storage.
It takes an enormous
It takes
amount.
an enormous amount. My husband's in IT infrastructure, it's enormous. Trust
Give
me.
it.
I guess my fear is, I don't want it to turn into an Obamacare website that costs us $1 trillion and crashes constantly. It's an infrastructure
I think,
developed. And I want to know that when we get to that time, that we're bidding these out correctly, that we're not throwing money down the hole trying to implement what needs to be.
Okay, Chief Sheridan is whispering in my ear that he thinks he has a quick answer. After that, we're going to take 2 more questions. Ma'am, I know that you have a question. I'll take you and someone from the other side. Jerry, if you want to answer that question.
We're very lucky here in Maricopa County. Taser International has probably the best on-body camera system in the nation. They have offered, we are purchasing 700 of those cameras. They offered to sell them to the sheriff's office for the cost of 1 camera, which is $7,100. Now, the caveat is the storage, okay? The cloud storage is, we're in negotiation with them, and if I remember correctly, don't hold me to this exact number, but it's kind of close, is going to cost us about $350,000 a year. The court order says we have to maintain those records for 5 years. I'm correct about that. So that's about what it's going to cost us for the 700 cameras that we're going to issue. The only thing that we have hanging right now is the discussion on our policy. How is it going to be used? The mayor brought up a question. The Plaintiffs' Council has some concerns about it, as does our council, and so do we and the monitors. All of us have to get together, and I think we're going to start this process on Friday, if I'm correct. And we're going to start to hammer down that policy because we want to get this implemented as soon as possible.
Is this something I can attend? These meetings, like from Student Stone over here, as a monitor? These kinds of discussions, or find out about the bids, or what you're putting out, or how you're deciding on these matters, as opposed to just a generic public meeting, whatever you.
Well, I mean, as we all know, bid processes are literally public issues.
Right.
In terms of, any particular meeting, I can't envision a particular meeting.
I don't want to go to your office and put it together, but you know what I'm saying, when you express they're being big, that's what I'm saying.
Well, the process is very public in terms of what their acquisition processes are. I would not really be in the best position to respond to that. Okay. They're certainly subject to public review. Ma'am, do you have? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to clarify something. Your salary and all the other high dollar amounts that you mentioned, $1 million here, $1 million there, 800,000 here. With the exception of the cameras, because I agree with you, correct, everyone is going to have it. We wouldn't be, all these costs are being paid by the taxpayers, correct?
Correct.
And we wouldn't be incurring any of them if the sheriff's office had not been found in violation of the Constitution and federal law. So if they had been doing things the way they should have been to begin with, none of this would be happening, with the exception of probably the cameras.
There's a yes or no response to that, and
No, you can elaborate.
Okay, and let me elaborate.
I mean,
Let me elaborate if I could. While it would appear that the proximate cause of these expenditures, forgetting about the monitor, which means what I do and the people who work for me do, while it would appear that the proximate cause of that would be the court's order, that's not necessarily the case. I mean, I believe that some of the modernizations regarding the technologies are things that the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, would eventually have sought anyway. Okay, so I'm not prepared to say that it's exclusively because of the court order, because some of the requirements of the court order, some of the training, some of the establishments of what we call risk management databases are, as Chief Martinez says, very consistent with what we call generally accepted police practices. So I'm not prepared to say, and because I'm not in the best position to say, that ultimately the sheriff and the sheriff's staff would not have sought some of these improvements in some of these technologies anyway. So somewhere in there.
no, I totally understand what you're saying. That it's just cost over time and modernization and things like that. But the bottom line is, someone brought a suit, and the judge said because of that suit, they're in violation of the Constitution and federal law. And so some portion, would you say most of it, half of it, is because of that?
The answer is there is a requirement in there. Let's use, for example, the cameras. Okay? cameras would be an example of the parties, to the extent that they reached an agreement, that they agreed on that. So whether or not, even though it was finally put in the form of an order from the court, there was a certain measure of consent as it pertained to some of the remedies as a result of the order. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, that'd be fair.
City? Okay. Okay. So what I'm saying is it was not necessarily mandated, right? Even though in the final form, it was put in the form of a court order. The parties came together and agreed for the common good and community good that the remedies in order to address the underlying issues that were found in the court order would best be addressed by the acquisition of certain pieces of technology, the creation of certain processes and procedures, and the delivery of certain training.
Well, even, could you give a ballpark percentage of how?
Ma'am, he just answered your question.
Okay? Let's go both. Everyone, okay, everyone has, go ahead.
No, I just was asking for a range of how much of it was because of the loss of the money that will have to be spent.
I don't know the number. I guess one thing I would say, just a thought I have as I hear you talking, is that all of the remedies, all the concrete steps that all cost some amount of dollars in the court's order from October of 2013 were needed to make sure that MCSO stops violating these particular constitutional rights. But I think what you're hearing from the monitor, and I've heard Chief Sheridan and others in MCSO say this, is many of those things they're actually happy with. Right? They're happy, regardless of how they ended up having to do this because of a court order, they're happy with them because not only do some of these things help an agency to comply with the Constitution and protect people's civil rights, they also are good from a public safety standpoint because it helps them with their policing. So they have multiple good effects. That's just a thought I had in response to your question. I can't give.
I'm going to give Mr. Liddy one, and there's going to be one more question after the comment that Tom wants to make, please.
And ma'am, from the 10,000 foot view, the taxpayers are going to fund governments. They're going to put money in the fire department, they're going to put it into healthcare, they're going to put it into the schools, they're going to put it into law enforcement. What's happened in this lawsuit, and I will tell you that we have 2 to 7 lawsuits per week, every year, throughout all the county, not just the sheriff's office. With this lawsuit, the court found constitutional violations, ordered that they be remedied. The parties got together and used a lot of experience from all around the country to come up with recommendations for the court. The court blessed those. And so, in essence, the taxpayers and the Board of Supervisors is all on board. They're funding all of this. So the taxpayers are going to fund a modernization of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. Now, they're not going to raise taxes because of that. But there are some funds that will not be spent on health care, perhaps, or fire departments, perhaps, or schools, perhaps. It's possible. So, but a lot of that fund would have been spent anyway. Obviously, the money that's going to be spent for the monitor staff would not otherwise have been paid. But the legal fees that are being paid, I mean, I work for the county, and I'm going to get paid regardless. I work on 100 different things every year, and so does my staff. We do hire outside counsel, we hire other things. So I don't think that the legal fees from the county side are going up any. So, in other words, I hope that helps to answer your question.
I'll make one statement, which is what I believe many people have been waiting for me to say. The last question. Sir, you're in the red. That's it. You're it.
Si me ayudan.
Come on.
Una cosa, antes que todo, al cónsul de El Salvador.
One point first to the Consul of El Salvador.
Es una vergüenza para la comunidad que representa. Para toda nuestra comunidad aquí es una verdadera y absoluta vergüenza.
He says it's an embarrassment for his community and for all the communities that are here that he represents.
Debe quedar bien claro aquí y en todas las reuniones posteriores que aquí en el condado Maricopa
And you have to speak very clear that here in the county of Maricopa,
se han gastado millones de dólares
they have spent millions of dollars
defendiendo lo indefendible.
to defend that is not defensible.
Estamos discutiendo asuntos tan inverosímiles como la esencia del ser humano,
We're discussing items such as a human being,
cuando que debiéramos centrarnos en el desarrollo, en el progreso de toda una diversidad humana.
when we should be focusing on the diversity and the progress of all.
Ningún ser humano es ilegal
No human being is illegal.
y debe quedar bien claro, aquí la oficina del sheriff del condado Maricopa violó la Constitución Federal de los Estados Unidos de América.
And to be very clear,
Was part of the illegal union, understand?
I'm gonna give you a few seconds.
But I'm just offended, okay? And so I can respect, so
por favor, por favor.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, wait a second. Sir, I'm gonna ask you to thank you, okay? Look, this has been a peppered evening, okay? Which I think is good. Those of you who are taxpayers, and all of you are, got to see some of the things that the rest of us see behind the curtains. We got to see how council interacts with each other. Hopefully you've gotten to see the way we interact with council as well as with the sheriff and others. But this is an important issue, and notwithstanding the fact that we occasionally interrupted while others spoke, this is part of the discourse. And as you said, sir, respect is extremely important. Sheriff, I thank you and commend you for being here, Chief Sheridan, as always, and both Ms. Liddy and Ms. Wang and Ms. Maldonado. Okay, thank you very much for being here, and please thank Lisa as well. We generally hang around a little bit afterwards. Sometimes we have important discussion as we leave. We don't automatically exit the room. So I thank everybody for their time. This has been for the collective good. We've gotten something out of it, and we certainly hope you have as well. So thank you very much.
I am very harmless. I just came like I know she's not.